Thank you guys for joining me back here on the show. And something that we talked about at the beginning of the season, and actually really a lot during the off season, and how impactful it could be to the NFL, was this new kickoff format, right? The whole new look of what kickoffs were supposed to be and how it would be received by the players and the fans and everything like that, how different it really looked. And now, after its first year, we definitely got some answers that we were looking for in terms of how impactful this new kickoff dynamic rule really was. Because prior to this season, last season, the NFL saw the lowest rate of kickoff returns in NFL history. Only 22% of the kickoffs were returned in 2023. So this past offseason, right, there was this whole big deal that the NFL had to do something about it, and they came to a final answer, and we got what we got this year, right? The new kickoff format, and they implemented it from watching a little bit of the XFL and bringing that model over to what we got now in this new kickoff format, right, in the NFL, right? And it's made a pretty big impact, I would say. Right now, after the first year, the first trial run, if you will, the NFL Executive Vice President Jeff Miller spoke to reporters yesterday about the results from transitioning over to this new format in terms of the kickoffs. And he said in his statement that there was a 57% increase in kickoff returns this year compared to 2023. And while Miller didn't go into any specific numbers, he also said that the average starting field position also improved, along with the number of returns also improved, and there was less injuries recorded this season. And then, to add on to that, there was the NFL operations website that stated that you could see that there was 332 more returns this past season compared to the year before, and 59 of those 332 went for at least 40 yards or more. That's the most that there's been in a single NFL season since 2016, and also 7 kickoff returns for touchdowns in the regular season compared to only 4 before that in 2023. And those 7 kickoff returns were the most in the NFL since 2021. So there's a lot of firsts, there's a lot of numbers, and there's a lot of just statistics I just threw out there. But I think through some of the adjusting, I think the new dynamic kickoff has been, I think it's been the smoothest incorporation to the NFL in terms of the changes that were made last offseason with some of the rules, at the NFL owners meeting and things like that, with the owners and executives all there, and they vote on these changes. I think that the kickoff rule has been the smoothest looking one out of all, the changes that they made. And I think it's also been the most impactful one also, because there was a point there last season where people were talking about the kickoffs and how irrelevant they were, and just how it felt so unnecessary to have them, especially if guys were just not going to take them out, because there was no incentive to actually return them, right? And for how exciting it is and how impactful kickoff returns can really be, right, to get to a low point where you're starting to talk about maybe we just shouldn't have it, or what else are we supposed to do? And then for them to implement this new rule, kind of go outside the box and go to the XFL and see this and implement it and also change it a little bit to something that fits, I think, very well now, has been a huge success, and they've gotten the positive feedback that they were after with a move like this. And the statistics also show that it's been what the NFL intended, all in all, with the injuries as well, right? The old kickoff format was extremely dangerous because everything was very high speed. Everything was high impact, high speed, big hits, and you just never really knew how or when someone could receive one of those massive hits. So I think now it's a little bit slower, it's a little bit more, I guess, planned out in a way, but it's definitely looked better in terms of everything that we said, right? The returns, the average return, how many times people are willing to actually have kickoff returns has been a pretty big part of it. And, with that being said, I still think there's a little bit more work to do here with the new kickoff rule. Just because, it's good. I mean, it's made a big impact, and I'm a big fan of it. But I still think, and I'm still hanging on the fact that that I feel like touchbacks with this new kickoff format should be at the 35-yard line. And it seems crazy to say that because, we've seen a 57% increase in the kickoffs, which is a phenomenal number, right? A phenomenal jump in how frequent people are returning these kickoffs. But I think you could even reach a new height and a different level by bringing it out a little bit more. Because now, if you bring it out to the 35, I think the 40 is too much. But if you go to the 35, now it changes the mindset of who's defending and who's actually kicking off. Because there would be a lot less kickoffs through the back of the end zone if you put it out to the 35-yard line as the starting position. Because basically, that's almost like the 40 already. Virtually it's like starting as close as you can to the 40-yard line without actually being there, right? If you kick it out of bounds is when you could do that. But if you bring it out to the 35 a little bit more, now I think you put kickers and kickoff teams in a very new area where kickers got to start aiming their kicks very accurately for them to kick it in the landing zone and force these guys to return it, or, kind of roll into the end zone and still hit the landing zone. But if you have an effect on it, if you can make it as tough as possible on the receiving team, it's going to force kickers to be a little bit more skillful in that way, not just booting it as hard as they can through the back of the end zone, right? It's going to require a lot more ability and skill. And I think that's something that's exciting for the special teams unit, because one of the big reasons that they wanted to incorporate kickoffs back again is because they wanted to have some impact coming from special teams units, right? They wanted that to still be a very important part of the game, and you really didn't get that when everybody was calling for a fair catch about a year or two ago. So they wanted to change that, and now not only have you given the special teams units more of an opportunity to go out there and actually affect the game, but all the players that are only on special teams, some of the younger guys that are on special teams, they have an opportunity to go out there and make a play and make a name for themselves and actually impact the game, not once in a while just go out there and, half try and kind of run out like 15 yards before it's a touchback anyway. So I like that, and not only that, but you increase the level of difficulty, which I think is only going to bring out the best, even more of the best on some of these special teams players, definitely the kickers, and you elevate the level a little bit more as well, which is, I think, what the NFL wants to do, right? Increase the quality of their product. So I think kickers are going to get a lot more respect. They're going to be looked at in a whole different view if, you got a very skillful kicker that's able to make kickoffs as hard as possible and just make it extremely difficult and annoying for these kickoff return teams to actually get something productive from it. I think that would also benefit the NFL, and that's only one thing, right? Bringing it out to the 35-yard line, I think, would be the most impactful. But also, I think that they got to do something about these onside kicks, because it feels a little bit like you're inching towards irrelevancy a little bit. Like the onside kicks, yes, we've seen a couple of them, but I still think that should be a bigger part of the game, regardless if it's the old format or this new format where you get maybe like 3 onside kick recoveries or something like that, or just a handful of them. I think that could be an area where the NFL experiments with it a little bit more, and hopefully off of the back of this success with changing the kickoff format completely, maybe they could add something to the onside kick, or maybe not make it a surprise anymore, or maybe just scratching it, or not scratching it, but just adding another alternative on instead of that. And I'm, for one, a very big fan of like putting the onside kick team in a scenario where it's like 4th and 25 or like 4th and 20, and you have to convert that to get the ball back, I think that would be something pretty cool that you can think about. And then if you actually like it and maybe make some tweaks to it, you could think about implementing a scenario like that and giving teams that option in the late portion of the fourth quarter. I think not only would that be super awesome, but it would change again the emotions, the stipulations, everything about a game. If a team converts like a 4th and 25 to get the ball back, then the game I think just adds or gets added a whole different level of momentum being switched over to the other side, and it's just complete mayhem at that point if they're able to do something like that. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but really the biggest thing I want to see is just something to make the onside kick of some importance, right? I don't want to see a team announce an onside kick and just think like, oh, like they're not going to get the ball back anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? I want to see it be impactful, right? I want to have hope. I want to have some hope that they could potentially recover it, but I guess we're going to go through each step of it, right? We can't have everything at once. So it feels like the new kickoff rule has been a success. I believe it has been, and hopefully it propels the NFL to making some other changes, right? Maybe not being so hesitant about making them, right? They've already made a move like this. Hopefully it makes it easier. But in terms of moving on and looking ahead, we got one more segment to get to. Just a quick update on some coaching hires, this time related to the New York Jets. They hired 2 more coaches to Aaron Glenn's coaching staff over the last few days that I'm just going to go over, and we're going to recap it here to end the show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a few seconds.